Hello and welcome to episode 15 of Retro Recall the PS1 Chronicles, a show where we play and rank every PlayStation game ever created. My name is Jimmy, and as always, I'm here with Mike.
Hello.
All right, so you picked the game this week.
Yes.
What was your thought process there?
Honestly, it's just we've gone through a lot of genres of gaming so far, and the one thing we haven't touched is sports. And I was kind of going through the list of the games, and Hot Shots Golf popped up in the list, and I was like, oh, I've heard this name a lot. I may have played it in the past. I'm not entirely sure. So it being a bigger name that I recognized it, I figured that's a good one to go with.
I myself am a huge fan of the Hot Shots Golf series, actually. I don't think I ever even told you that.
Yeah, I never did that.
Yeah, there's a few on the PS3 that I played a ton, and there's a reboot that came out for PS4 called Everybody's Golf. And I played that game a lot when it came out. Probably dozens of hours I put into that game.
Nice. Well, that's actually good because then that gives us a comparison to what this game is compared to those ones.
Yeah, I know. I'm excited to get into it. So let's just go ahead and get right into this game. Hot Shots Golf was released on May 5th, 1999 in North America. It was developed by Camelot and published by Sony. You see I wrote down here, Camelot actually makes the Mario Golf games.
Interesting. They have a little niche in what kind of games they like.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think the Mario Golf games kind of vary in quality as you go on, but there are some really good ones.
I think in terms of golf games, like I said, I may have played this one. It's hard to dig into my memory to know if I played this game or not. But I do remember playing Tiger Woods golf before, and that's a
lot more intense.
Yeah, I remember being very accurate. Yeah, that's about as much golfing as I played.
So I love golf video games. I don't know why, because I don't like real golf. I think over the years, like my entire family is really big into sports. I never really was, as far as like watching them, following them, but they play the games, and I would always just play the games because I had them as a kid because they bought them. So, you know, I played Madden, NHL, all the games. I would even beat them in it, and they would make them so mad because they love sports. And I'm just like, yeah, I just like playing video games. But yeah, like I said, I have a good history with this series. I've never played any of the PS1 ones, though. So I was excited. You know, this is the first one. And just to start off, jumping right in, like, I don't know that it looks very good.
No, given what it is, it's a golf game, and then you have these anime-esque characters, you could say. They don't look like normal humans. They're just very animated.
Yeah, but at the same time, this game came out in 1999. Like, that is late for PS1.
Oh, true. I honestly didn't have any problem with the graphics. Like, sure, the characters didn't look great on the screen, but in terms of the environment and everything else, I felt like it worked well.
Yeah, I'm not saying it looks bad. It's just like, you know, you expect more from this kind of game, especially it's a first-party Sony game, you know, published by them.
Yeah.
So you would think that they would want it to kind of show off the system, and we've kind of gone through this with a lot of the other games. I think it was Alone in the Dark, actually, where you're like, I think the graphics should be 3D. And then Tomb Raider, we're like, well, maybe they shouldn't have been. And
Yeah.
With this one, I kind of go back and forth on it, where I'm like, yeah, it might have looked all right if it was in 3D, but at the same time, like, this doesn't look bad, so they didn't really take a risk. And I think it holds up better because of it, for sure.
The one thing is, I mean, you said playing it safe, and I feel like that's a big part of this game, is that there's just not a lot to it. It's just a very safe golf game.
I know, and going into this episode, I'm just thinking, like, what are we going to talk about, right?
With that, this is a very basic golf game. You just hit the ball and you get to the hole. But I don't know why, and you can verify this or not. Do the later versions of this game provide more, like in terms of power ups or like abilities or something like that?
Not really, no. Not as far as I can remember.
Oh, because just like the name Hot Shots Golf gives me that vision in my head of it's like an arcadey golf, which it kind of is. But it adds these weird, wacky things to it, like abilities that make you can do these interesting things with the ball or make it curve in special ways that you wanted it to, or
yeah, like Mario Golf or something.
Kind of, yeah.
One of the first things I noticed when I was playing this was, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like this plays more like a simulation golf game than an arcadey golf game.
Yeah. They try to go with the arcadey aspect with the characters and how the characters are acting. But then, yeah, when you actually get into the gameplay, it is just more simulation golf than anything.
Did you find this game hard?
And I didn't know if it was a skill issue or if it was just the game being hard, but I did have problems a lot, yes.
Okay, because as I was playing it, I'm like, I have played so many of these games, this shit's going to be easy, but especially, and we'll get into this later, the versus mode, which is how you unlock characters.
Oh, I was going to ask you about that.
I had such a hard time. Like today, I played an extra little bit because I wanted to brush up to get ready for the podcast. I ended up playing for an hour because you have to play 18 holes against a computer opponent. You can't just do 9.
Yeah.
So almost every time I would think I was doing okay, and then they would just come back and whoop my ass.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, I did end up unlocking 2 characters. So
nice.
There's that. But I didn't unlock any courses.
I unlocked no characters. I don't think I even saw I saw the versus, but I thought that was a one player versus the second player type thing. So I didn't click on it because I just thought that's what that meant. But I kept seeing the characters and I was so confused on how you unlock the characters. And I was digging online trying to find it, and all I could find is cheat codes to unlock the new characters. And I'm like, I don't want that. I just want to know how to go about getting these new characters.
So I'll tell you, here's how I found out. If you go on Wikipedia, under the gameplay section, there's one single sentence, and it says, players can acquire additional golfers for use by defeating them in the versus mode.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah. I didn't even look up the manual for this game because I didn't feel like I needed to, but
same.
It's really strange because the way you unlock the courses is even weirder. You just get these points for doing good at playing golf. Like a birdie gives you points, or like a chip in, or like hitting the pole or something. It's just, I couldn't find any way to see how many points I had though.
Which modes did you play? Because there's a lot of modes in this game.
Yeah, I guess we can get into that too. But I just played like the regular, like play 9 holes by yourself. And then after that, I did that a few times just to kind of get used to the game. And after that, I just played the versus mode to try and get characters.
Oh, okay. So I did I think they call it the stroke.
I think that's what I'm talking about, right? Where you just do 9 holes.
Yeah. And you just try to get the least amount of hits. And then I did the tournament. But yeah, so in order to unlock a new game mode, it's like you got to get to level 5. And just to get to level 2, you need 50 experience. So for how little you get experience in playing the game, you have to play this game a lot just to get up to level 5 to unlock a new game mode.
So I just looked it up, and the final thing you can unlock is a 5-round tournament where you play all the courses all the way through.
Interesting. So then that means there are additional courses you can play.
Yeah, there's 5 total.
Oh, okay. That was a big note of mine of if my entire gameplay was going to be these same 18 holes over and over and over again for every game mode, it's going to get boring really fast.
Yeah, I mean, between the game modes and the characters and the courses, like there's a lot to do in this game. And I think that if you really wanted to unlock everything and get good, you're looking at like probably 10 to 15 hours easy.
Especially considering, so when I did the tournament, that took me about 45 minutes, maybe an hour to get through just the tournament, 18 holes. And with that, I got, I think, 10 experience out of that. So
that's ridiculous. And we can kind of get into the actual gameplay now, because like comparing it to some of the later games, one of the biggest things that's missing here is you can hold a button and it makes your shot go faster, and like the run up to the characters go faster. So, you swing, you hold the button, it just zooms to the next thing. So you're not just sitting there watching.
That's a really nice improvement.
Same thing with like when you're watching a CPU player go, like you can just hold the button and let it go. You don't have to watch every single thing that they're doing, because I felt like a lot of the time playing versus mode was just, I do my shot, I watch it, I watch my character run to it, I watch the other character go. It's a lot of downtime. I mean, I guess that's like real golf, but
And that whole view of like when you're watching your ball, then you see your character sprinting full speed at the ball is like so goofy and like weird. I was like, is this supposed to be happening in the game right now?
I thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
I also just noticed this today. After you finish a hole, if you look, the character is still standing there doing their victory pose.
Oh, I don't know if I noticed that or not.
I don't know if it was doing it the whole time or maybe when it did it, it was a glitch for me and I just didn't notice. But the character I was trying to unlock, he was just standing there posing behind like the menu showing everything. And it was like circling him. It was very strange looking.
And because it's like pretty much not full 3D, it's just a 2D sprite, I think. So when the camera's moving, you can see the sprite like spinning.
Yeah, he was just turning.
Yeah.
But yeah, total I played this game, I want to say like around 3 to 3.5 hours.
Okay. I did about 2 hours.
I mean, in reality, like you could play this game for about a half hour, 40 minutes and, get the gist of it and not really have to keep going. But getting into the gameplay a little bit, I think the biggest thing for me is it's really hard to judge how hard you're supposed to hit your ball.
Yes. Big note of mine. The amount of times I've hit it over the hole, then I hit it over the hole the opposite way. And I just kept going back and forth over the hole simply because I thought I had just a teeny tiny bit of power, but it didn't work.
Well, there's also, you push square to switch between different clubs while still in that same type of club. So like, for example, when you're putting, there's 2 different kinds of clubs you can use. One that makes the bar blue and one that makes the bar yellow. And you can do that with different clubs as well. So like my first few playthroughs of it, I didn't realize what was triggering that. Because sometimes it'll change on its own, but a lot of the time you just have to do it yourself. So, I'm doing a putt, I leave it on the yellow one, and I just go flying past it. In the later games, I don't know when they introduced this, but they have a little icon on the power bar where the hole is. So you know how hard you're supposed to hit it.
That would be nice.
It makes it just such a streamlined experience.
Yeah. A big thing with the putting was whenever you're doing the 100-foot putter, the grid spacing is farther out. And when you do the 30-foot putter, the grid spacing is smaller. I thought that was power percentages. So it's like, oh, the hole's about the 5th bar back, so that's about 50%. It never was. It would go flying by the hole.
I did the exact same thing today. I was like, I got to figure out how this works. I counted them, and then I just went flying past it.
My biggest problem was with the 100-foot putter, I could never get it slow enough. And with the 30-foot putter, I could never get it fast enough.
A lot of my gameplay is I'm either too short or just go flying past it. It's just, what can you do? Like you just have to keep playing it and learn the way that it works.
Yeah. And with the other putters, the square thing, I think that's just your power hit, right?
Yes. That's what the P stands for, power.
So the power hit, you only have a limited amount of those per game.
What is it, like 7 or 8, I think?
Maybe. I think I've seen 10. It might be different for each character.
That's true. I don't know. A lot of the time, that's not even really necessary.
The only time I really used it, I mean, I used it a lot more in the tournament, but it's like if the wind was coming at me at a pretty strong pace, I'd use the power just to shoot it farther. But that's about it. It was never, you just hit the ball a little bit harder, and that's about it.
With the wind, I do like how, like, when you start a hole, you don't know. And then it's not until after your first shot that you find out. It's a nice little twist that I don't think they do in the other games. Like, you always can just see it immediately.
I thought that was odd at first. Like, oh, we're going to keep this a secret until you do your first shot. But, I mean, with that, they do the little grass throw thing, which is, it's a funny little animation, but it works. Like, you toss up the grass, and if you see it go flying off, you're like, oh, wow, this wind is really going. So you can adjust accordingly with that.
I would always find myself just over adjusting for the wind just in case. It is nice, though, because you get an advantage by letting the other person go first. I mean, you don't let them, but when you're like losing, they go first. And you get to watch them go. You can kind of see where they aim it. And then you can kind of judge based on that how hard the wind is.
That's true. And I didn't get to experience any of that. So that would have been nice. The aiming, or I guess the power level, is just like any other golf game where you hit X to start the bar, hit X to stop the bar, and then hit X again to swing. The swinging part of it, you have to be so precise. If you're just one notch to the left or right, your ball just goes flying in a different direction.
Well, it's not that bad for a normal shot, but whenever you do a power shot, it's really drastic.
Yes. The amount of times I was aiming out the perfect shot just to have it go flying off into the rough is just countless. It was most of my gameplays.
Yeah, this game is surprisingly punishing. Like, it's not easy at all.
Even when you think you know what you're doing, like there was a time I was like, or close to the hole. I'm like, okay, the wind's blowing strong at me. I have this vision in my head of I'm going to pop it up and I'm going to do that thing where you push down on the D-pad to stop, do a backspin.
I never did that.
Okay. So I tried to do that. I'm like, in my head, it's going to go up. The wind's going to carry it back a little bit and it's going to stop and be perfect. And I would just overshoot it. Like, where was the wind helping me on that one?
Yeah, I mean, it's just extremely precise for an arcade game. And that's kind of what tripped me up for a while. You would think that, I mean, even on like the easy mode or whatever, like it's really still very punishing.
Well, I do like how in the very, very beginning, we talked about this in the game before, they give you a tutorial option that you can just go watch. I didn't like that it was just a video. I thought it was a follow along. So whenever the video went, I was pushing the buttons to follow and it canceled me out of the video. And so I'd have to go back and just watch it. So you're just watching the cinematic of these buttons being pressed.
I didn't even look at the tutorial because like I've played these games before. So I'm like, this is going to be easy.
That makes sense. But I'd like that they give you that option. They give you the option to test or practice on different courses and holes if you're having a problem with a specific one. They give you mini golf to practice your putting.
Now, is the mini golf? I didn't do it, but is it on a separate place or is it just on the courses that are already there?
No, it's a whole different thing. It's literally you're on a mini golf course.
That's very cool. I like that.
It reminded me of the old Java mini golf games, if you've ever played those online.
Oh, definitely.
That's what it reminded me of, and I was having so much fun playing that and just practicing. The only problem is, and I don't know if I just couldn't find the button, but once you're in a game mode, you can't get out of it until you're completed with that game mode.
Yeah, I learned that the hard way a bunch of times because basically doing the versus mode, like when I was starting off, I was just getting my ass kicked a lot. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm like 3 down already, like might as well just restart. And you can't. So you have to just reset the whole game.
Yep. And then a huge thing, again, we complained about this in Cooler World. They allow you to move around on the map freely, spin it around, look at all the different things you need to. Like the things we complained about, they did in this game.
No, you can see everything down to like the slopes when you're putting. You can like just move the camera any way you want. And it is extremely helpful. Because, you know, a lot of the time, too, you get stuck like near a tree and you're like, well, am I going to hit this? You have to kind of like angle the camera in a way that you can see. It's all very helpful. I don't have a lot of bad things to say about the gameplay of this game. It's just very precise. That's really all it comes down to.
I know they improve on this later in golf games in general, but when you're putting, they give you a line of like the path that it's never really like 100% accurate, but it's a decent representation of what you're going to hit. I do think the putting graph is nice. It gives you all the information you need. And once I started figuring out the whole putting situation with the 2 different clubs, I was able to at least start sinking putts a lot easier. But that 100-foot kept screwing me over every single time. But yeah, there could have been more that they could have done. But for a first game, I think it's a very well-made game.
I agree. Now, in the tournament mode, were the CPU opponents just like crushing you?
Yeah. So I was doing well in the beginning. I was like +1. So that whole 1+1 put me in last place for a while. And then after a couple of holes, people started like really dropping. But there's like 3 people, CPUs in the beginning, like at the very top, who were always at par +0. And I was like, well, I'm never getting first place because I can't catch up to that. In the end, I tied for 26th place out of 31. And that was only with a +11. So that wasn't even like terrible. But yeah, some of the CPU people are just nailing every single shot. And it's not like versus from what you're saying. I don't see anyone else play. I'm just playing on my own and I get the scores.
Well, like, so today I was trying to get the second character and I was winning for most of the match. But once we got to the end, he started just sinking these crazy putts. Like, I'm talking like using the 100-foot putter from halfway across the green. And I'm like, this whole time it felt pretty almost human in a way. Like they would mess up sometimes. But then once I was ahead and we were getting towards the end, it started just kicking my ass to the point where like I got to the last one and it was a draw. So at the very end, if you're a draw and it's in versus mode, you go to sudden death.
And what is it? Just another hole?
Yeah, just another hole. I ended up winning, but if I would have lost after all that time, I would have been pretty mad.
I wonder if that's just to because it's versus mode and you're going to unlock a new character out of it, it's like, all right, we need to spice things up a little bit just to make you sweat a little bit.
Yeah, and I also think, you can also play the versus mode against your friend. So, like, you don't want it to end in a draw. You want to see who's better, you or your friend. You know what I mean?
Now, what is the differences between the new characters? Because you said you unlocked 2 of them.
They just have different stats. One was a girl, one was a guy. But, like, I think the characters just get better as you unlock them.
That makes sense. There's really not much more they can do.
Yeah, it's not like they, like, look unique or anything. They look the same as, what you would expect from this game.
Well, yeah, I guess in the beginning, whenever you start the game, they show that whole cast of people. So I think that's just all the people you can unlock.
Yeah, I would assume so. Did you turn on the music while you're playing?
No, only because I couldn't figure out what I was supposed. Like, that options menu is very confusing on what actually does what.
In what way?
In the options, they have, you're talking about config mode, right?
Yeah.
So they have BET, which I don't know what that means.
I don't know either.
They have BGM, which I assume is background music.
That's what I'm talking about, yeah.
Oh, okay. And then like caddy mode, caddy voice. I'm like, I don't know what caddy mode is. It probably tells me in the manual, but I didn't read that. So the problem with that is the BGM background music was set to off on mine, but the music was playing during the menu. So I'm like, well, it says it's off, but the music is playing. And in my head, if it's off, I shouldn't be hearing any music right now. So I thought it was just working. And then I just played the game and I just thought, I didn't think much about it, honestly. I was just mindlessly playing golf, so I didn't really think about the fact that there's no music.
I only brought it up because the music is very intense.
Oh.
It's like not chill at all. It's just going hard the whole time you're playing. It's really good music, but it doesn't make sense for this game.
Interesting. I'll have to go back and load up the game after we're done with this to check that out.
So there's just like one type of music that plays when you're just, doing your regular shots, and then it switches to a different kind of music when you're putting. And the putting music is very like intense. Like it reminds me of like game show music when someone's answering a question or something.
I was about to say, is it like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Like dun 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 dun.
Exactly. It's exactly like that. But like you'll just be playing and then it's a hard cut to this music when you start putting. It's very weird.
Weird. I did notice while I was in tournament mode, when I got down to the putting and I was starting to understand it a bit more, it was getting intense on its own, even without music, of like me like eyeing it up and like, am I going to get this right? And I felt like that anxiety of like, oh, is this going to go in? It kind of gave me like the Happy Gilmore moments where I'm like stopping right in front of the hole and I'm like, why don't you just go in your home? Like, that is your home. So if I had the music on, I'd be even more stressed trying to make this shot.
I'm glad that it defaults to being off because it is distracting. Like when I unlocked the second character, I played through that versus mode with the music on, and it was just a little too much. Like it's not like crazy or anything. It's just a little overbearing. Golf is very focused. You're trying to line up your shot, whatever, putting, you don't want to listen to some blaring music when you're doing that.
And I think that's a big reason to why I never really noticed it, because whenever you start and there's no music on, you get like the jingle whenever you're like getting ready to look at your shots and stuff. But then after that, you just get bird noises and wind, and it just sounds natural. So I don't think it ever made sense to me that, oh yeah, there should be music playing right now. This all just seems what it should be.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, even like golf games that do have music, it's very like, it's like Wii golf. It's like it has that very like chilled out feel to it. So it's not distracting in any way. But at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal because you can just turn it off. But figured I'd bring it up. But yeah, we've kind of gone through all of my notes already. So,
Yeah, there's not really too much more to talk about. I mean, at the end of the day, this is just golf. I would have liked to see them do more with it, but I can see what they were going for. And they did what they needed to do.
Yeah, I mean, as a first attempt, it's not a bad golf game. I don't know. It has me questioning whether in future episodes we should cover multiple games in a series, just because we could have totally done Hot Shots Golf 1 and 2 in one episode, I think.
Yeah, it would have been nice to do a comparison between what those two games are. Because eventually we will be covering Madden and other sports games. And what do you say about a football game?
Exactly.
Just like this, it is football at the end of the game, or at the end of the day.
No, and I think this episode is that experience that we needed to just know that in the future, whenever we do a sports game, or even to a lesser extent, some racing games, right? Like we can do a few in a series. We can still give them their own ratings, but we don't have to, try and spend a whole episode talking about Madden NFL 98.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess we'll just go ahead and hop into these reviews. They were all very positive. We'll start off with CNET Game Center, which gave it an 8 out of 10. And they said, the game features big-headed anime-style characters who play on realistic golf courses. Although they don't come close to the detailed flora and fauna of other PlayStation golf games, such as Interplay's VR Golf or EA's PGA Tour, the course settings are well done and strike a good balance between simplicity and realism.
Which I agree.
Yeah, I mostly agree with that. I mean, I haven't played any other golf games on the PS1. Surprisingly, loving golf games, the only one I really remember playing a lot as a kid is Mario Golf, which is obviously, way more cartoony than this even.
Yeah.
Game Fan gave it a 93%, and they said, a great addition to a stale genre. The arcade-style approach, with its secret characters and courses, makes Hot Shots Golf enjoyable for idle gamers, while its golf accuracy and stat tracking will appeal to fans of golf sims. That's kind of like what we talked about a lot, where it's like it has the appearance of being arcadey, but it's secretly very intense.
Yeah, there's really nothing more to say. I don't think I really agree with secret characters. I don't think they really make them secret. They kind of just put them out there.
It's not like when we played Tekken, where like the character would now appear on the screen. It's like you see the blacked out character, so you know that there's more.
Yeah.
Man, this episode sucks. Let's go on to the rating here. This is so boring. Like,
I mean, what more can we say about a golf game?
I know, it's just fucking golf. I don't know. I thought maybe as a connoisseur of golf games myself, maybe there'd be more to dig into here, but it's like I just don't really know what there is to say.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things of as we got into the episode more, you started having that realization of, wow, these really are all the same games.
Honestly, like that's why I even brought this up in the episode about us doing multiple games in an episode, because like in the future, we definitely need to do that.
Yeah, I fully agree with that.
Yeah, so I guess we can just get into the rating. I'm so conflicted on this because it's like it's a fine game. It's not that good. Like it's not like I'm like, wow, this is amazing. But at the end of the day, it's a competent golf game. It has plenty of modes, plenty of characters, plenty of courses. If you want to play this game for a long time, you can. So I think I'm going to go with a 6.5. I was somewhere between a 6 and a 6.5. This is another one where I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other about it. So like a 6 or a 6.5, it's like means nothing to me one way or the other. So I went with the higher one,
Yeah, that makes sense. Whenever I was going about this, I thought, okay, if these are the only 18 holes, this is going to hurt the score a lot. You telling me that there are multiple courses, that helps it a bit. Now that I know how to unlock the characters, that helps a bit too. But yeah, I think this isn't a game of being like, oh, I can't wait to play this. For some people, maybe it is. But they do the job that they set out to do well. There's no flaws. It's just, you get golf, and that's what you're playing. I was sitting at about a 7 on this. I think that it's competent in what it does, and it doesn't fail. So, and that's exactly how I felt for Tekken, is that this does the job well. It does what it's supposed to, and it's a fun game.
Yeah, and I see that we both gave this the exact same thing as Tekken.
Which is fitting. It very much is fitting.
And yeah, that's so crazy because I was just about to say I feel the same way because it's the first in the series and it's going to be better. And in my case, I've played, ones that came out 20 years later and they're much better, but what the series can be. So with the first one, you kind of start in that middling range just so you can leave that room for the later ones to have higher scores.
Exactly. Yeah.
And for me, by the way, based on what you were saying, I do get excited to play golf games sometimes. To me, a golf game, like whenever I was playing Everybody's Golf for PS4, that kind of took the spot for me of, I'm going to play a game a little bit before bed. Or like, I'm winding down and I need just something to do for a little bit. That's what a golf game is to me. I don't like play a golf game like I would play an RPG or like an action game.
Yeah. And there's clearly a market for people who love golf games, just like with every other genre of game out there. It's just not for me in general. But I didn't hate playing this game. I I was having a bit of fun here and there, but it wasn't like over the top fun.
Yeah, I just think that those little quality of life improvements will make it a more fun experience, especially for you not playing a lot of golf games. Like even just the being able to see how far your power will go, that will make a gigantic difference.
Yes, fully agree with that. So now we have to determine where this goes in our list. Because we now have 2 games where we don't stand too confidently on either of them. We're at the middle of the road for both. So
yeah, I mean, I really don't know. This is tough.
I would say if I were to put these in a specific order, I think I would think that Hot Shots Golf goes before Tekken 1, just because it gives you more to do.
I was gonna say the opposite, actually.
Interesting. So what would your reasoning be for switching them?
Okay. So Tekken obviously has unlockable characters and, there's different stages as well. So they both kind of do the same thing there. Hot Shots Golf has more game modes and all that, but that just comes with the fact that it's golf and not fighting. So like without Tekken having a full on like story mode or something, there's not really that much more you can do. Like, yeah, I'm sure they're going to have more mini games and things like that as that series goes on. But at the end of the day, I kind of just like the vibes and like the art style and the characters of Tekken more because that's where the strong suit is there. Whereas Hot Shots Golf is, yes, a good golf game, but the personality of it is nowhere near that of Tekken. So what do we do now?
I don't know. So I agree with what you're saying. It's tough because in my head, I'm thinking, okay, so if I wanted to master Tekken 1, it'd take me a long time to go through each character to get everything I needed. Alternatively, if I wanted to master Hot Shots Golf, it's going to take me a long time to get through all these unlockable characters and to complete. So each one, they're so balanced that you could say, oh, well, this one has this, but the other game also kind of competes in that same area as well.
They're weirdly similar. I mean, I think it really just comes down to personal preference as far as like where you would put both of these. And like you don't like fighting games. I'm not a big fighting game fan either, but I don't think it's a stretch for me to say that you like golf games more than you like fighting games, right?
Yeah, I'd probably say that.
But you don't really like either though.
Yeah, if I had to choose one, I'd go with golf over fighting. But that's just personal preference as well. So we have to go back to the gameplay of which one is just a more solid game. Because also, you were saying in the versus mode, how the guys are like destroying you towards the end in Hot Shots. That was both of our entire experiences in Tekken.
Oh, this is weird. I didn't expect it to be like this.
Well, because every time we had a tie, it's like, oh, this is clearly better than this game. But
well, I just mean like as far as making this decision, neither of us really feel that strongly about it.
Exactly.
But we both have our own opinion. So it's not like we're going to argue about it and submit these points and like get into it. It's just like, yeah, I kind of like Tekken more. You kind of like Hot Shots Golf more. So what do we do now? I'm fine with putting Hot Shots Golf above Tekken, honestly. Like, I'm not going to drag this on and fight about it.
That's funny because I was going to say the same thing. Like, I don't care either way.
God
Whatever we want to do, we would do.
You want to flip a coin?
Do you want to?
I kind of do.
I think I have one. Okay. Do we want heads to be Tekken, tails to be Hot Shots?
Yeah, that's fine.
So we have heads, which is Tekken.
All right, well, there it is.
So Tekken is better than Hot Shots Golf due to coin flip.
I didn't expect this. I almost gave this game a 6, but then I'm like, it's really not that bad of a game. Like, there's like, what can you really say negatively other than like, yeah, there's a lot of things they can improve, but it's the first in a series. So you know that they're going to improve it. So at the end of the day, like we said, it comes down to personal preference. So I think the coin flip was the only way.
It really was. And it's not like it's something that we could both bring up a great amount of arguments for because you can say the same for both games. Unfortunately, it's a weird scenario to be in.
Yeah, I didn't expect it. But all right, well, that's going to do that. So now we're going to pick our game for next week using our new wheel,
which I'm excited for.
So we have 1,406 games on this list. So what I've done is I found a list of every PS1 game in North America. I already had another list of like fan translated games, so I added that to this list. And then I've slowly been going through another list that has European exclusives and Japanese exclusives that us as English speakers can play. So eventually this list will probably grow to about 15 or 1600 games.
I cannot wait for Retro Recall podcast number 11,253.
Yeah, it's fucked up. But just setting some ground rules here. We're probably going to skip sports games for now because we will kind of figure out a special episode for those. I didn't bring this up ahead of time, but I'll just bring it up on the podcast. If we land on a game in a series that is later than the original, I say we go back and play the original. Is that all right with you?
Yeah, yes. So if we get, I don't even know, Spyro the Dragon 3, that automatically defaults it down to Spyro the Dragon 1.
Okay, yeah. Just so we can play these series in order, because if we play them out of order and we start with the last one, it's going to be really hard to judge it going back. I think that's going to lead to lower scores than the games deserve.
Exactly. Yeah, we should always do it in order based on when they were released.
All right. Well, I am recording my screen, so here we go. All right, so we landed on a game called Expendable.
Interesting.
I'm going to go ahead and look that up.
I was just going to ask, did you ever hear about this game?
All right, I have never heard of this game. It looks like the canon name for it is Millennium Soldier Expendable, but it was just called Expendable in North America, which is why we have that as the name. All right, so that'll be the episode for next week then.
Yeah, new game for me. Well, I guess you too, since you've never heard of it.
I've never heard of this.
I like those episodes where we both go in completely blind. So
I do too. It makes it a little more fun. All right, well, that's going to do it for us. Thank you so much for watching or listening. If you enjoyed this, please remember to like and subscribe, as well as give us a rating on podcast services. We'll see you next week.